Hi, it's Anne from Worldwide Speak. In this video, I'm going to show you the difference between the words to, very, and enough, and I'll make sure that you know how to use all three of these words. Let's start with very. When I use the word very, I want to emphasize something. For example, I'm very tired. I think I'll go to sleep now. So I'm not just a little tired, I'm really quite tired. I'm very tired. Here's another example. Be careful, that coffee is very hot. So this example is important. When I say the coffee is very hot, it's quite hot, but it's still possible to drink it. You just need to be careful. So let's look at to. That coffee is too hot to drink. You need to wait a few minutes before you can drink it. So using the word to, here it has a different meaning than very. It's like excessive. This is the difference. It's too hot, so you can't drink it. Here's another example. That box is too heavy. We can't lift it. So if I say the box is very heavy, then I can still lift the box with effort, but when I say it is too heavy, I can't lift it. It is excessively heavy, and now I can't lift it. So let's look at some examples of very and to side by side. In the first example, I'm using the word very. Be careful, the coffee is very hot. It's hot, but you can still drink it. In the second example, that coffee is too hot to drink. So here it's crossed some kind of line. Now I can't drink it. It's excessively hot. And that is the difference between to and very. So let's look at it another way. So here I might just say the coffee is hot. I want to emphasize that. I can say the coffee is very hot. When I say the coffee is too hot, now it's like crossed some kind of line in my mind maybe, and it is not possible to drink it because the quality hot is just crossed this line. It's excessive now, and I use the word to express that. It is too hot. I can't drink it. Let me show you one more example. I might say his shoes are tight. Like a small amount of space here for his feet. I want to emphasize this. I say his shoes are very tight. But when I say his shoes are too tight, this means he can't wear them because they are so tight. This is crossed some kind of line now. It's excessive and it's not possible for him to wear the shoes because they are tight. And I use the word to express this. They are too tight. So let's look at a common mistake. So in the first example, I say, I love you very much. This is correct. But in the second example, I love you too much. This is not a correct use of the word to, because remember, to indicates something excessive. And how can I love a person excessively, too much? That's not probably what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say here is just the love is very, very strong, and for this I need to use the word very. I love you very much. So don't say I love you too much. That's using the word incorrectly. Here's another one. That cake is very good. That cake is too good. So the correct way is in the first example. Because when something is good, there's not really a limit for, when we can make it excessively good. It's just going to be very good. Too good is not correct here. So remember, when we use to, it's like we're crossing some kind of limit now. And that's not something we do with our positive adjectives like good or in something like this, I love you very much. So when something is positive, we want to emphasize it, we use very, not to. Now you will sometimes hear native English speakers make a sentence like this last one. Those shoes are too cute. And that is kind of being a little bit playful with language, and the speaker knows that they're kind of using this incorrectly. And that's something that you can do if you're extremely proficient in a language. But if you're learning a language, it's important to use the words as they are commonly used. So use very to emphasize something positive, and use to when you're indicating that something has crossed a line and is now excessive. Let's look at one more example with to and very. So in my first sentence here, I say, the T-Rex's arms are very short. This is true. They're quite short. In the second sentence, the T-Rex's arms are too short. Okay, if I only say this sentence, it's a little confusing like this because it says the T-Rex's arms are too short. But I'm thinking, too short for what? So I need to use a little more information around this sentence to make it make sense when I'm using to. So how about something like this? The T-Rex cannot touch its feet with its arms because its arms are too short. So now I understand that the arms are not sufficiently long, okay? They're too short for some kind of purpose. He cannot touch its feet. Or here, the T-Rex's arms are too short to touch its feet. So here is clear why I'm using to, because it's important because it means that I can't do something because of the limits of this arm. And that's when it's important to use the word to. Notice that I was always using to with an adjective. This is important. For example, that coffee is too hot to drink. You need to wait a few minutes. His shoes are too tight to wear. You are too young to drive that car. So I'm going to use to in front of an adjective. And many times I'll use an infinitive right after this construction like this. Too hot to drink. Too tight to wear. Too young to drive. So this is important because remember, when I'm using to, I'm explaining that something is excessive or crossing some kind of limit, like in the first one, too hot to drink. So if I say only it's too hot, then I'm thinking, well, too hot for what? Why is it too hot? So here I explain too hot to drink. And the way that I do that is I follow with an infinitive. Too tight to wear, too young to drive. Now let's talk about our third word, enough. So let me give you an example. She is 15 years old. She needs to be 16 years old to have a driver's license. She's not 16, she's 15. She is not old enough to drive a car. So basically, I'm saying that her age is not sufficient. We're not there yet. She is not old enough to drive a car. Her age is not sufficient. It's lower than it needs to be for this thing, driving a car. Now, this man, this boy, he is 19. He is old enough to drive a car. So his age is sufficient. It's higher than the age that's required. You need to be 16 in the United States. So he is old enough. So the word enough is something sufficient, or like in my first example, not sufficient. So imagine that we're looking at a chart like this. Okay, you need to be 16. This is the limit when you can get a driver's license. If you are under this age, we can say you are not old enough. If you are at this age or higher, you are old enough to drive a car. So notice that I used the word old enough. I'm using an adjective in front of enough like this. He is old enough to drive a car. The T-Rex's arms are not long enough to touch its feet. They're not sufficiently long. So adjective plus enough. And then again, we can use this structure with an infinitive. Old enough to drive or long enough to touch its feet. Now we can also use enough with nouns, and let me show you how this works. There are 6 people coming to the party. There are 6 pieces of pie. We will have enough pie for everyone. Here's another example. There are 16 people coming to the party. We have 6 pieces of pie. We will not have enough pie for everyone. So again, the word enough is expressing that something is sufficient, or in this case, not sufficient. So just to review the structure with enough, we use an adjective plus enough like this. He is old enough, or she is not old enough. We often use this negative form, but we don't say it like this, and this is a common mistake that students make. She is not enough old. Here's where it's confusing. We use enough in front of a noun. We have enough pie, or we don't have enough pie. So just to review, we use an adjective plus enough, and then we use enough plus a noun. The best way to remember this, I think, is just to remember one example of each. So old enough, enough pie. And then when you go to use these words, you'll think about if you're using an example which is closer to old enough or enough pie, and that way you will use enough in the right position. So I hope this helped answer some of your questions about how to use enough, very, and to. Please check out some of our other videos if you have other questions about grammar topics, and if there's something that you don't see here, leave me a note in the comments below and we'll make a video on that topic just for you. Thanks, bye-bye.